Hi guys, and welcome to a new video on Sonal's life. So, we have just had the destruction in Kobe show. And after like a few weeks of very calm and sort of like chilled out videos, we are back with a full review. So, before this we've had the Road 2 shows. There's not really much to discuss. There were some very good matches. But I guess if I'm going to point out one, I'm going to point out the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match. That match was between Yo and Desperado, and that was on the literally, I think, the last Road 2 show. It was probably one of my match of the year contenders from start to end. We always have praise for El Desperado. He's a phenomenal star. But I think Yo sometimes goes under the radar with just how good he is. So, like, for example, he's one of the most diverse wrestlers in New Japan. We see him, he's athletic, he's quick, but also he's not afraid to go to the mat and do the submission stuff that we know Despy likes to do with the muscle and things. And in particular, Yo's selling was phenomenal in this match. Throughout, El Desperado was obviously going for the numero dos, and so was targeting that knee. And Yo literally made me cringe behind my cushion. I was like, oh my god, please don't do anything to hurt him. That's how like passionate I was about it. It was really sad that actually in the end Yo lost, because I kind of had hope for it. But we then saw House of Torture come out and Doki was like, this is my belt, you're not a real champion, obviously alluding to the heartbreaking match at Wrestle Kingdom, where Despy only won because Doki had broken his arm. So that's something to look forward to. We then had a press conference yesterday, and that saw Hiroki Goto return. So he was basically like, my injury is all cured, so I'm going to be back at King of Pro Wrestling. So there was a lot of things to look forward to. So let's get on to the main show review. Now, we started with a 10-man match. So this was meant to be 6-man, and it was meant to be Hontai and Chaos facing House of Torture. But because of everything that went down with Despy and Doki, that became 10-man. So it was Yo versus Desperado, Yoshihashi, Uemura, and Umino facing Sho, Doki, Dick Togo, Sanada, and Evil. It was as good as you can get. It was actually the only tag match on this card that was like a prelim. So it was nice to get all of everyone's favourites, especially with the Hontai Chaos quintet. I liked seeing Yoshihashi, it's always a joy. The rising groups, so the relationship between Uemura and Shota, which I'll discuss later, that's always so much fun. They've really grown together as a team, and it was very nice to see the face-off between Doki and El Desperado. Obviously, they were Suzuki-gun brethren, there was always respect, but now they are very different people. Because the interesting thing, and this is, I'm going to link, because the Doki and Sho had a match against Robbie Eagles and Fujita for the tag titles. And I'll mention this throughout when we talk about House of Torture, that actually Doki has not really cheated any more or any less than he did when he was in Suzuki-gun. So I'm going to hope that actually this is going to be a very good match going forward. So yeah, it was a decent match. It went only about 7 minutes. Dick Togo got pinned by Uemura, so yeah, that was exciting. Nice way to start, give everyone a taste of that, and get most of the House of Torture guys out of the way. We then had a special singles match on the road to Tanahashi's wrestling retirement. He had a match against Great-O-Khan. He's basically going against all his young lion babies. This match, so we've always had grievances about O-Khan. They are someone who is very unstable, not unstable, but like not very consistent in the ring. They can put on amazing bouts that everyone's like, wow, look at O-Khan. And sometimes they do things and you're like, do they really want to be a pro wrestler? Now, this match was good because it showcased them in a very good light. We mentioned with their match with Zack Sabre Jr. that Great-O-Khan thrives on the mat. And this worked very well in Tanahashi's favour, because we know Tanahashi's knees are fucked. And so by doing this mat game, Great-O-Khan and Tanahashi put on a really good bout. There was nice reversals, nice targeting. And it showcased that actually Great-O-Khan, if they can figure out where they need to focus their attention, because again, there's all this stuff going on with the United Empire. So I think JY and Callum are at home. Akira's had surgery after his injury. We don't know where it's going. So surprisingly, Tanahashi won this. We need to see something from O-Khan. Are they going to focus on character? Are they focusing on in-ring? Are they focusing on the United Empire? We need to figure that out. But the big news that came out of this is, as we all thought, oh, Tanahashi, who looked very beautiful, by the way, is going to be going down to greet all the fans. Some music hit, some very familiar music, and it was Pro Wrestling Noah's Kaito Kiyomiya, aka one of my first pro wrestling crushes. He came down to the ring and basically said, okay, I want to challenge you. I want to have a special singles match with you in Noah. So that is now set for a Noah show in October. And it's quite interesting because I'd already had plans to renew my subscription for Wrestle Universe. So that's like Noah, DDT, Tokyo Joshi. I think Marigold. There's a wide breadth of promotions on there. So this has made me really excited. It's also like this whole show's got a really nice theme of togetherness, and like we've seen with like Zach talking about him going to different promotions. The Japanese promotions are really coming together and like sharing talent, so it's very fun. We then had, it was the match I missed out. So it was Bolton Oleg versus Doc Farley for the Never title. Probably self-explanatory. I did catch bits of it that there was House of Torture interference. Luckily, it went on 5 minutes, 55 seconds. Again, 5 minutes probably too long. Oleg retained. I'm not going to hate on Oleg anymore. You guys know my criticisms of him. But then Evil decided that the Never division is for him, and he challenged, so I assumed that's going to be at King of Pro Wrestling. So that happened. But we then, after this, got onto a stream of amazing matches. And like, this was a very top tier show just because the final stretch of matches were phenomenal. We started off with the IWGP Tag Championship belt, and that was champions Ishii and Taichi facing the returning War Dogs, Oscar Loibe and Yuto Nakajima, the Knockout Brothers. When I mention Oleg and his grievances, I've always said that there's no character there. And this is what I want to say. I want to give a shout out to Yuto. I have issues with his whole persona, and I discussed this on True Heel Heat with the whole cultural appropriation and things like the bomber clat and like his presence. That is maybe something for another video or another discussion. But actually, when Yuto was a young lion, I had no hope in him. I was quite critical, very overly critical probably, that I didn't even think he was going to make it out of the dojo, and that he might be one of those rare instances where they just leave or they get kicked out. But Yuto has proved me wrong. He went on excursion and he came back with this fresh, renewed sense of motivation. Obviously not just in the character, but his moveset has become so clean. Those kicks, those strikes, which works perfectly because from the start when they were targeting Ishii and Taichi, you could see that his eyes were only on the Stone Pitbull. And that works because their styles are very similar. And New Japan and obviously everything like Rev Pro and all the companies they work with were very smart teaming Yuto with Oscar, because Oscar has this personality. And he's also got a very good moveset. He's very tall. So putting them together, you have a real match made in heaven. And we know Ishii and Taichi are great together. I honestly love seeing them team. They went from biggest rivals to like the biggest besties, like they're husbands now basically. And this match was just hard hitting. Like one of the matches of the night that I was most surprised about. Because if you like a match with big men that is stiff, that is powerful, this is what you want. Now going into this, I think like most people, I wanted the Knockout Brothers to win. But I didn't think they would, just because Ishii and Taichi haven't held it for a while. But I was surprised because the Knockout Brothers did. This is a big win for New Japan in the sense that a lot of the criticism is continuously that they are not pushing the young talent. And here you have two guys coming back and winning on their first title shot. And we discussed this again on True Heel Heat, that New Japan seems to have been going away from this compared to what they used to do a while ago. And then the future came again, where Uemura and Shota came out to challenge for these belts. So you have 4 guys who are set to continue the legacy for New Japan. What was the most interesting with this is obviously Yuto was ignoring Shota and just looking at Uemura, and this is obviously because of their past, especially when Yuto had his injury. So this is always a lot of fun, and I like when they do things like this where they bring past storylines to push the future. We then, as I mentioned, Kaito Kiyomiya made an appearance. We then had a historic GHC title match. So Hiromu is obviously the new GHC Junior Champion, and he is facing Ishimori. Now this was meant to be a singles match because Ishimori said he didn't want the belt. He's had it, he's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. However, after a cheeky roll-up win in one of the Road 2 shows, they made this official, and this was a great match. They've wrestled like how many times? 20, 30, 50 times in the past. But this was so different because Ishimori was almost playing like a babyface role. Not in that sense. But he was bringing out a lot of moves that a lot of fans have not seen since his Noah days. And they really played that to the story. So for example, at one point, Ishimori did a 450 splash. Hit it perfectly. But he was clutching at his ribs because, as commentary pointed out, this is not something Ishimori does at all. There was a bit of cheating from both sides, so the turnbuckle came off low blows. At one point, Hiromu did his own sneaky style, where he pretended that Ishimori had hit him in the balls, and he hadn't, so that was fun. And in the end, Ishimori unfortunately got pinned, which was kind of made sense because after the match was made a title bout, Ishimori was like, if I win, the title can only get defended in New Japan, and I don't think no one want to get rid of their title that quickly. There's a really nice sign of respect at the end, so Ishimori got the title and handed it to Hiromu. I can't say they're besties, but it was cute. And then Eita, who is meant to be challenging Hiromu for the belt, he came out. He was met with boos because obviously it was a New Japan crowd. And he was like, but I am a guy, this is my home. So that is also set for next month. Another reason to buy the Wrestle Universe subscription. And yeah, it was a great match. Very different from the two of them, but I liked it. We then had probably my match of the night, and it wasn't even for a title. So throughout this entire tour, we've had the unaffiliated facing the War Dogs. So we had that with Hiromu versus Ishimori. Now we had Finley versus Suji, and then the next match was the same. There was no title implications for Finley versus Suji. They've had this long-standing feud. They've wrestled 6 times in 2 years. But this again is probably one of my match of the years. From the very beginning, it was so hard hitting. It felt like their lives were on the line, never mind just maybe a future title opportunity. There was so much going on from start to end, and they were showcasing their skills because, like a lot of members of the New Japan roster, they are so diverse. We've seen it with Suji. He did his excursion in CMLL in the UK. He's gone for dojo knowledge. Finley, he's basically a legacy of wrestling. Born and raised in the ring, came to New Japan to perfect his skills in the dojo. And because of this, we saw high speed, high energy, high risk, but we also saw the more mat-based, the reversals, very technical wrestling, which we all love. There was just something about this that had me at the edge of my seats. Like we saw Suji kicking out of Overkill. I believe Finley kicked out of a Gene Blaster. You could see how much they wanted. There was so much animosity between them. And like they were perfectly fitted between like title matches. And while it was a nice break, I also think that it also upped the ante of the show because I know there was a lot of people going to it a bit unsure. They weren't really hyped by it. But this was actually great. I don't normally say this, but like there are a lot of people who have chemistry with each other. Like Hiromu and Ishimori do. But actually the bond and I guess the connection between Finley and Suji is phenomenal. They have that link of the dojo, remember? They were in the classes below, so there would have been some connection there, and you could tell they just don't like each other. They were throwing everything on the kitchen sink, and it took a hella long time for Suji to finally get the win. I say a hella long time. It took 14 minutes, but it felt like so much longer. Not in a negative way, but just they felt like they were giving everything to this. And as we obviously saw Ishimori give a sign of respect, Suji tried that with Finley, but Finley was like, no. You think we're good guys? No. You think we're going to be besties with the unaffiliated? No. He was like, you know what? We still hate each other. I still fucking hate your guts. But the way that he didn't really respond in any dramatic way sort of meant that maybe Finley's like, our paths will meet again, but you know what? Fair enough. So, yeah, we were like on a great match after great match after great match. And then we had another one. So this was the final of like the unaffiliated versus War Dogs. And this was Shingo Takagi, my fellow singleton, facing global champion Gabe. Now, Gabe had a lot to come back from. because he obviously was injured in the G1. He's had all this AEW stuff going on. Then he did that cage match. The Japanese fans were very much on the edge about him. This match, whatever you think about Gabe, was very good. It was a lot more brutal than any of the other matches. So there were tables, there was chairs. At one point, Shingo did a pile driver for Gabe into the tables, and blood was everywhere. But again, like, the feud between the War Dogs and Unaffiliated has been full of unbridled passion. You can see how much they love the industry. Commentary have been trying to hype Gabe back up, saying, oh, this shows how much he loves New Japan. Again, it will be his future decisions and future booking and everything, and his attitude that will really allow me to get back onto Gabe's side as showing how much he loves it. But Shingo Takagi, so the whole premise of this feud has been like, Gabe's been like, you're an old man, and then Shingo was like, oh, but you've got no hair. Shingo might be 42. But actually, for me, most of the guys in New Japan who are in their 40s, so Shingo, Zack, Goto, Kanemaru, Ishimori, Taichi, all of them are in their 40s. And they are thriving. Like, there's like that saying, like, you know, age like fine wine. That seems to be the case for New Japan wrestlers. So you could see that, like, Takagi was like, you want to go brutal? I will do that. I have been in this wrestling ring probably more than you've been alive. And he was giving Gabe everything that Gabe was giving. Similarly to all the wrestlers on the card I mentioned, they're so diverse. Gabe was doing moonsaults off the flipping turnbuckle. Shingo was using his power and strength, but also his agility. And it was such a powerful match. It might not be for everyone, because like I said, it wasn't really cheating, but there was a lot of outside stuff. They were going into the crowds, well, towards the crowds. At one point, there was like a couple, I think, who had like separate seats, and they were just smiling as like the two guys were coming out. So that was very fun. In the end, Gabe got the win. I wasn't really surprised. I think a small bit of me had kind of thought, oh, maybe Shingo could do it, because, you know, I love Shingo. Hashtag singletons over here. But following the match, who should come out? Yota Tsuji. Now, this was surprising, because they always said about title implications for the Finley versus Suji match, and I assumed that it was going to be for the heavyweight. But turns out it won't be. Suji and Gabe have a very hate-hate relationship. So their match is going to be good. And it again was another match that just delivered after a good match. But then we got to the main event, which saw Zack Sabre Jr. facing Ren Narita for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. To say I was worried going to this would be an understatement, because it's Ren Narita. Narita, I always had a soft spot for him as a young lion. He was on the smaller side. He did a different excursion from everyone else. He was very much mat-based. I love when he joined Strong Style and everything there. Then House of Torture happened. Yet, let me preface this. I don't know whether I am judging this on a House of Torture level, but this was a goddamn good match. So, the entire tour, Narita has been targeting Zack's leg, which is the base of the champion. And that was no exception here. So I'm going to say there was cheating involved. That bloody bar came out, which was funny because in the press conference, Zack was like, if you don't want to be a wrestler, you should be an artist because that artwork is great. Narita probably didn't do it. But then Yujiro came out. Sanada came out with that shitty boot, but with the help from the Young Lions who got rid of them. And that obviously didn't happen until like the 20-minute mark. This was Narita showcasing his skills. He was battling Zack at his own game with submissions. Obviously, Zack won, but in the post-match comment, Zack went, this is the closest I've been to tapping out in like 8 years. Because Ren Narita has always had that mat game. When he went to the LA Dojo, trained under Shibata, when he was in Strong Style with Suzuki and Despy, because you got to remember if you see similarities between Zack and Ren, there is that because of that link to Minoru Suzuki and the style that he is known for. So I was like, I don't know if it was tiredness, but I got really emotional watching this match, because by the end, when Zack finally beat Ren, and he beat him, I'm just going to have to check how he beat him, with the Zack driver, not a submission, I was like genuinely really proud. You could see even the crowds were kind of hyping for Ren after everything he had done. He was working over Zack's leg and was in control for about 70% of this match just with his own skills. Combining this with what happened obviously with Evil in the Takeshita match, could New Japan be actually trying to give us a House of Torture that can wrestle? We also saw it in the junior tag match. I don't know, I'm not getting my hopes up. But what I can say is that we have guys in House of Torture who genuinely can wrestle. Ren is one of them. He got a lot of support from fans after this match. And I would love to see this carry on. Give us some heel stuff. I am a sucker for a good heel. I always have been. But let's balance it with the good wrestling that we know a lot of the House of Torture members can do. So yeah, we finished with that match, and that was the one that worried me the most. But actually, that cemented that, aside from maybe the Never match, this was a goddamn good show for New Japan. I know people are skeptical after Dominion and after G1 about the state of New Japan with pushing the young talent, the state of House of Torture. But it feels like to some extent this show has sort of quelled some of that. We saw new guys get wins. We saw the Knockout Brothers. We saw stories being pushed with Umar and Shota, Suji, Gabe. We saw Ren Narita House of Torture actually wrestle, which sort of balances out the House of Torture criticisms we've had. So actually, I'm very happy with how this tour and this show has done. My match of the night has to go to David Finley and Suji. There was no titles on this line, but like I said, one of my favourite of the year. But you've got to let me know now, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, on social media at wrestling_chat. What did you think of the show itself, the highs and lows? Specifically, let me know what you thought about Ren versus Zack. This was something that I didn't expect from the sold out Ren Narita. And do you think that this is something we're going to see? A new and improved House of Torture? Again, I've not got my hopes up. Remember to hit like, share and subscribe. We are fully on the road to Wrestle Kingdom now. We have Road to King of Pro Wrestling next month. Then we have the Super Junior Tag League. Then we have Hiroshi Tanahashi's special show, which is replacing Power Struggle. We then have World Tag League, and then it is Wrestle Kingdom. So yeah, we're going to be very busy on this channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon. Bye! Bye!